Once again, WWE tried to hold Lesnar to the terms of his contract, but in early 2005, Brock took WWE to court, and unsurprisingly, a judge said it was indeed ridiculous to stop a man making money for that amount of time. 7-year contract. They being WWE and Vince McMahon, wanted to hold him to the terms, block him from wrestling or MMA for 7 years.
I just thought about this, and I'm not being insensitive. I'm being dead ass right now. Do y'all think this is one of the reasons why Vince went the extra measures to try to use an employee to pitch to Brock Lesnar to get him to re-sign because of this whole thing trying to hold him up in the past? I believe we are all aware that Andrade recently left the WWE, went to AEW, went back to the WWE, ultimately to go back to AEW. But this time there was a big problem. So for us to look more into that, we're going to check out Andrade's AEW return is over by WrestleVibes. And shout out to one of our Discord members, Jay Uso. I don't know their real name, but it's not the real Jay Uso, for submitting this video. Before we get into that, welcome back to the Trysun Tribe. My name is Mike. And if you like old and new wrestling content, live streams, reactions, all that good stuff,
it looks like Andrade might just be done with AEW. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds wild. I know that sounds like something out of the most insane wrestling meme you've ever heard of, but all signs point to there being something going on with Andrade. And there's a wide variety of reasons as to why all of this could be happening, but let's start with what we know. We know that a few weeks ago, on the 6th-year anniversary edition of AEW Dynamite, Andrade...
Damn, it's been 6 years? I mean, yeah, 2019, but when you say it, it's like, I didn't realize that much time has passed, man.
At his return, he attacked Kenny Omega, and everyone in the wrestling world was enthralled and watching on in shock as Andrade, who just left WWE after he had just returned from AEW,
right,
to that company, had finally came back to AEW. And everyone expected him to do a program with Kenny Omega. Everyone expected him to go out there and then follow it up in the next couple of weeks of television building up to Wrestle Dream. And so far, Andrade has not showed up on Dynamite at all. In fact,
I'm assuming this video is before the information about the no compete clause happening. I might actually have to try to find that video, but let's check this out for right now.
He has not been a part of or mentioned in any Don Callis family segments at all. Andrade, even during a segment where Konosuke Takeshita was overseas for Don Callis' 62nd birthday, Takeshita at least called in via video. Andrade, again, was nowhere to be seen, was not mentioned, and this has led to a lot of speculation. You combine that with the fact that Andrade was scheduled to wrestle a match against LA Park this week, and he pulled out of that, or he was pulled from that. We still don't really know, but he won't be wrestling there. He has not been mentioned on AEW TV ever since he returned, and it just is a fishy situation. And there are a few reasons as to why this could be happening. Reason number one, well, maybe Andrade just crashed out again. That's what
Okay, so this is a speculation video. I don't think this has any type of update. Let me see if I can find something about Andrade or the WWE no compete clause. Let's watch this. Yeah, let me switch it over real quick, because this one is I'm not even sure who this guy is, but I just looked it up. First thing that popped up. Let's check it out.
Hello, James here. Now, yesterday I did a video on Andrade and the mystery of why he appeared and then disappeared from AEW television just as quickly. There were a ton of theories originally, not yesterday, but you know, in the intervening couple of weeks, I guess, as to why Andrade was taken off television so quickly, from disciplinary reasons to maybe buyer's remorse on Tony Khan's part, to maybe Tony Khan just going a different direction, which he often does with his booking. But anyway, the prevailing wisdom at this point is that it's believed to be one giant contract dispute between WWE and AEW regarding no-compete clauses in WWE's wording in their contracts. Now, the mystery remains why Andrade was able to work a Mexican independent promotion on, I think, October 3rd. but not a US-based independent promotion at the end of the month against LA Park. But he's still apparently scheduled to work for the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico this weekend as of recording. Now, once again, WWE, when they release one of their independent contractors, and once again, that term will be coming up a couple of times in this video, the performer in question is not allowed to work for another promotion for 90 days, regardless if they're major or minor. Now, that's been the standard for a long time, and it is enforced, by the way, usually with independent promotions, once again, as well as major. What's strange here, though, with Andrade, is that WWE apparently told AEW, or Andrade, or whatever, that they just wanted Andrade, you know, they fired him, they just wanted him gone.
Oh. Okay, let's pay attention to the wording of this, because according to what he's saying, WWE made it seem like they just wanted to get rid of Andrade's contract, or just wanted to let him go. And this sounds like there was no compete clause or no waiting window for him to be able to show up in another promotion or work for somebody else. But let's see how they finesse this, though.
And he was apparently free to do whatever he wanted or earn his money wrestling for whoever he wished. Now, the WWE, did they just go back on their word? Or was it communication, or miscommunication, as it were? We don't know. But once again, the prevailing thought is at this time is that WWE may have retroactively rescinded Andrade's freedom to work wherever he wanted. Now, which is why Andrade hasn't been seen in AEW since his lone appearance on AEW Dynamite back on October 1st. No match with Kenny Omega, which seemed to be being set up for Wrestle Dream. No Wrestle Dream. No mentions on television. Nothing. But then something else was brought up yesterday after I finished recording the video on Andrade, that the newer WWE contracts, as well as current TKO contracts, now have a more draconian measure, at least on the surface, in place. That if WWE find just cause, quote, WWE can fire you and then keep you under a no-compete clause for 1 whole year.
What? No, that's excessive, bro. That's excessive. Like, just cause could be anything. And on top of that, why would you have somebody on the shelf for a whole year? Like, that just sounds wrong. It damn near sounds vindictive. We can fire you, but we can prevent you for a year. Now, in all fairness, I do have to play devil's advocate. You gotta read your contract. If you sign something, you gotta read your. I know we all do it when we sign up for Apple, and when they do these updates, we just hit I agree. But you gotta read your contract to know what you're signing up for. But the fact that they can hold somebody for a year after they've been let go to prevent them from working against, technically, I guess, the competition. I think that's what they will really try to stop you from working with that company the most. But a year is excessive. 90 days, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, been the standard, but a year is insane. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you! If you're interested in more wrestling content that you can't see on YouTube, like watch-alongs with video, check out the Patreon in the description. Like, subscribe, and comment if you're feeling oozy. And also, quick thanks to our patrons. And now, back to the video.
Now, what constitutes just cause? Well, kind of basically everything Andrade's been up to the last couple of years, or at least accused of. Multiple wellness policy violations, especially if you're doing them on purpose. Not turning up for work is another reason that would go under the umbrella of just cause. Starting trouble, getting into fights, that kind of thing, like Andrade also did in AEW. Something of that nature would, I guess, fall under just cause, and you, sir, will find yourself out of the job. Like, you know, how he did with AEW and WWE over the last couple of years.
I mean, that's fair. If you cause it, that's one thing. I get it. But at the same time, still, if I fire you, I just think it's excessive to hold you hostage for a year.
Whether WWE actually pay you for the entire year after a just cause firing or not, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing no.
Nah, I wouldn't think so.
At least not for the entire year. But, you know, once again, if proof comes out to the contrary, I'm happy to be wrong. But it's not just Andrade who had been looking to jump from WWE to AEW or wherever else this past few years. Mustafa Ali, Brody Lee, Mike Bennett, Sean Spears, they all publicly made pleas on social media to leave WWE publicly, and sometimes it fell on deaf ears, sometimes it didn't, although none resorted obviously to Andrade's methods, if indeed that was Andrade's motivation. Do all these things, wellness policy violations, not answer the phone when WWE call, not turn up for bookings, etc., if that indeed was his plan all along to rid himself of his WWE contract. But AEW's been the same. Ricky Starks, Rusev, Malachi Black, I think, might have at one point, but once again, I might be wrong on that. All wanted out of their contracts publicly with AEW. Mariah May too, although she was, far less subtle with it. Essentially, the reason for the clause, this 1 year just cause clause, as it were, is so performers exactly like Andrade and the rest can't stop acting up in a major way to then secure an early release, just to then hop to the competition. It's not so draconian when put that way. But
wait, run that back one more time.
Tracks publicly with AEW, Mariah May too, although she was, far less subtle with it. Essentially, the reason for the clause, this 1 year just cause clause, as it were, is so performers exactly like Andrade and the rest can't stop acting up in a major way to then secure an early release.
Can't start or stop acting up to secure an early release. That's where I'm confused, because let me just let him finish, because I'm not understanding that part of it.
Just to then hop to the competition.
I think he says start acting up. This is what I think he's saying, and maybe this is just me not understanding his accent, but it sounds like they're trying to make it to where for a year you can't go to the competition after you've been released by us, and you create this ruckus, create all of this attention around you. You start bashing the company, you start talking trash about WWE and bringing a lot of attention to yourself, which is going to grant the next company you work for that attention, and that's going to avert eyes over to them. I'm assuming they are putting this in place for a year to pass, or up to a year, so that way if you do act up, granted, yes, you'll get that you'll get that attention, but after a year, it's definitely going to cool off, and we're not going to inadvertently help the competition. That's what I think he's trying to say, but his accent is kind of throwing me off. Let's listen one more time.
It's exactly like Andrade and the rest can't stop acting up in a major way to then secure an early release, just to then hop to the competition.
Okay, wait. So he's saying, bro, this is whooping my ass right now. Y'all let me know if I'm the only one tripping right now. What I just heard was one more time?
Pause. This 1 year...
I need to see the text, because I don't know if he's really explaining it like the best.
Just cause clause, as it were, is so performers exactly like Andrade and the rest can't stop acting up.
Can't stop acting up.
In a major way to then secure an early release.
So is he saying that they can't stop acting up so that way they can try to get fired and then end up jumping to the competition and do what I just said, where like taking that attention and going to them? That's what I think he's trying to say, but let's just move on.
Just to then hop to the competition. It's not so draconian when put that way, but like pretty much any clause in any contract, it's all down to the wording and how said wording can be abused. So, for example, what if a talent has, I don't know, pluck a number out of the air, 4 months left on their WWE contract, and let's say they vehemently disagree with some creative direction handed down from the booking committee or writers team or whatever. Now, all finishes are final, and you're basically a performing monkey for the promotion. You sort of have to bend the knee to their will, but everyone has a limit of what they are or are not willing to do on screen. Like, for a famous example, Owen Hart. He was completely against the idea of being in a love triangle storyline with Deborah McMichael. Now, does that mean WWE had just cause to fire said wrestler, Owen Hart, in this example, and then punish them further legally by blocking them from earning a living for an entire year after the fact because they stood up for themselves? Now, once again, that's a hypothetical, but it's not out of the realms of possibility. Now, As for the clauses in WWE and TKO contracts, they've been put in place, this 1 year no-compete thing, just cause, a lot longer than people think. Now, this was backed up by Lance Storm last night on Wrestling Observer Live. Lance Storm in 2019 was hired by WWE to be a backstage producer/agent. Now, when he was released during the pandemic, WWE was still obligated to pay him the 90 days worth of no-compete because he was released from the company, but not for just cause.
Okay, where?
Now, importantly, the just cause clause was present in Lance Storm's contract as far back as 6 years ago. Once again, he signed or re-signed back in 2019. Now, when Lance Storm questioned this clause and asked for the opinion of WWE Talent Relations VP and legal paperwork expert Johnny Laurinaitis of the new clause, the master of the Ace Crusher claimed that it was now standard practice to put this clause in everybody's contract. Once again, 6 years ago, but it's only just getting out now. And if you want to know the exact wording, courtesy of Fightful, here we go. Upon termination of this agreement by promoter for breach of the terms hereof, wrestler shall not work, appear, or perform in any capacity for any professional wrestling, sports entertainment, mixed martial arts.
Jesus, is everything under the umbrella. I mean, I guess, but damn.
And or ultimate fighting organization, promotion, or entity not owned or controlled by promoter or any affiliated or subsidiary company thereof in the US for a period of up to 1 year from the date of such expiration or termination or specified by promoter in the notice of termination provided. However, that if no less a period is specified by promoter in the notice of termination, such period shall be 1 year. And then there's a follow-up. In no circumstances whatsoever shall either party to this agreement be liable to the other party for any punitive or exemplary damages, and all such damages, whether arising out of the breach of this agreement or otherwise, are expressly waived.
You know what's so funny about this, man? Like, it's so crazy. And sidebar, real quick. It's so crazy how contracts are written in a specific language. To most people, it's confusing. And listen, I'm no legal representative. I'm not a legal person. Like, I mean, I do things legally, but I'm not like in any type of like legal position. But anytime I read these documents, it always feels like it's written for you to think you understand, but not really understand what's being said. Because it's a bunch of word vomit that you can really summarize. But I think it's written, I don't know if it's just by standardization or if it's really meant for you to be confused. And that's why most people need legal representation to be able to read this stuff to fully understand what they're signing up for. But I always find it so interesting how all of who set this standard for documents to be written in this language? Because I think, if I'm being honest, it feels like and this is just my opinion, it feels like it's predatory for people to think they understand, but ultimately the person who drew up the document is trying to make sure that there's something in some loophole or some type of verbiage to where they end up winning in the end. That's just what it feels like. Because it's all of this stuff. In no circumstances whatsoever shall either party to this agreement be liable to the other party for any punitive or exemplary damages, and all such damages, whether arising out of the breach of this agreement or otherwise, are expressly waived. That just sounds like word vomit. Like layman's terms.
Once again, in the Andrade case, it's particularly odd because it says wrestler shall not work, appear, or perform in any capacity for any professional wrestling, sports, entertainment, blah, 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 promotion. Whereas, I mean, he already has for AEW, and then he already did for that indie, the Crash in Mexico, and he's still but for one in Puerto Rico as well, but not AEW. This is why it all gets a little muddied and a little weird. Now, Andrade's potential 1 year, it's up to 1 year, as the legal wording there says. Is this unpaid hiatus unenforceable, or is it enforceable? Well, I don't think it really is enforceable, really. Once again, I cannot imagine any court in the land would hold up an independent contract from WWE or TKO for a wrestler being terminated, but then the promotion they used to be part of, and once again, independent contract, is determining legally or declaring legally that said wrestler then cannot be able to be allowed to ply their trade or make money for an entire year.
Yeah, how can you hold me hostage if I no longer belong to the company? But then again, legally, if you signed up for that before your contract was terminated or whatever, it's probably binding, because that means you went into it understanding that that clause was in place. So if it says we can, even when you're terminated or let go or gone, we can still enact this no compete clause for up to a year, pretty much at our discretion, whether we feel like it or not, whether we woke up on the right or wrong side of the bed. But that's why it's important to read the documents and know what you're signing up for.
After their firing, once again, they're not employees, they're independent contractors. Now, WWE's argument would be that the performer knew what they were getting into before they signed.
There it is.
Still, as unenforceable as the clause appears to be on paper, it still requires money and time and resources and resourcefulness as well to challenge said clause, get it removed, and then go make money elsewhere. Now, the perfect example of this is Brock Lesnar. He secured an early release from his WWE contract back in 2004. After the grind of the road and then injuries and whatnot wore him down to the point that he was just done, burnt out, and sick of it. And it wasn't just Brock Lesnar at the time. Bill Goldberg was gone the same time as Brock Lesnar after WrestleMania 20. Nathan Jones, a few months earlier, who WWE had really high hopes of. They were traveling through Australia, his native land, and when I guess they got close enough to his house, he just didn't get back on the plane and just said, I'm done, never doing it again. So Brock Lesnar re-signed with the WWE on July 1st, 2003, and his contract length, and in fact, why don't we just show the contract instead, if you bear with me 1 second. Here we go. It does say it there. I think the screen recorder is not going to make it very obvious there. But Brock Lesnar's contract length was 7 years with a downside guarantee.
How you get this contract, fam? Is this public information? Like how you get homeboy contract? Anyway,
of $1 million per annum. Downside means Brock Lesnar would never make less than $1 million per year, and I think that includes, injury or having to take time off,
Lord.
or if the houses, fell down horribly and they weren't actually making that money, he would still make at least that every year. But once again, he'd probably make a lot more, with merchandise, royalties, extra payoffs, whatnot. But then Brock Lesnar jacked in wrestling for good. After that, once again, god-awful WrestleMania 20 match with Bill Goldberg. It was simply, they were all just done with the travel, etc. However, WWE attempted to hold Brock to the length of the contract, which would have seen him unable to make money in wrestling until the summer of 2010. Not only that, WWE considered a lot of other things in the competitive sports field competition, I guess, and also had that in the wording of the contract, like we saw in the contract we just saw with not Andrade,
MMA
but
and all
the
of that.
Fightful example given, with UFC. So no pro wrestling promotion, no UFC, no show jumping, no competitive tiddlywinks, whatever it might be. Well, no,
tiddlywinks.
actually, American football was fine, but when Brock's brief preseason stint with the Minnesota Vikings fell through and he was cut, all that was left for Brock to make really serious money as an athlete was combat sports, real or simulated. But unfortunately, like it was in the modern example given by Fightful, UFC and mixed martial arts was also in the contract when Brock Lesnar re-signed. Now, once again, WWE tried to hold Lesnar to the terms of his contract, but in early 2005, Brock took WWE to court, calling the independent contract terms as, quote, unreasonable, oppressive, unfair, and inequitable.
See, and that's the thing, though. If you're going to go to war with WWE legally, you gotta have the money to do it, because I can only imagine they have the best lawyers and they got the bag to be able to go however many rounds in the courtroom as they need to. I don't know if Andrade got it like that. I don't. And I don't even know if AEW is going to go to bat for Andrade like that. Brock Lesnar, fam, we know what Brock Lesnar is as an entity. He probably was one of the few to be able to go toe-to-toe with WWE legally. But I don't know if Andrade got it like that. And I mean, apparently, because he just disappeared and we haven't seen him since.
And unsurprisingly, a judge said it was indeed ridiculous to stop a man making money for that amount of time. Keep in mind, once again, 7-year contract. They being WWE and Vince McMahon, wanted to hold him to the terms, block him from wrestling or MMA for 7 years, which would have taken that till the summer of 2010, which just seems completely ridiculous. And once again, a judge agreed. How can
I just thought about this, and I'm not being insensitive. I'm being dead ass right now. Do y'all think that if this, what he's saying actually happened, do y'all think this is one of the reasons why Vince went the extra measures to try to use an employee to pitch to Brock Lesnar to get him to re-sign because of this whole thing trying to hold him up in the past? And instead of it just being something legally, like a contract or any type of negotiations, that he had to throw something extra in there. Like, I'm not even joking at this point, because if this happened back around 2010, the whole Janelle Grant thing, I think, happened less than 5-6 years ago, however many years ago it was. I think my timing is right, but that is, I'm trying to choose my words carefully. It does seem like there was a little bit more to trying to get Brock Lesnar to come back and re-sign, if what he's saying is actually true and accurate. I'll say more so accurate, that they tried to stiff Brock Lesnar in the past, and in future negotiations, they had to use something a little extra to try to get Brock to come back. I mean, it makes sense to me.
you stop somebody, especially an independent contractor, not an employee of WWE, be blocked from making money from pro wrestling or even mixed martial arts for 7 years, or 6 years, or a little over 6 years.
That's a hell of a long
that
time.
I'm right in saying. Now, Lesnar and WWE eventually settled, and Brock Lesnar went back to pro wrestling for New Japan this time in the October of 2005. And as a final FU to WWE and Vince McMahon, he renamed his F5 finisher The Verdict, as an honor, I guess, or a tribute to his personal courtroom triumph. Now, yes, could WWE block Andrade from appearing on AEW television for an entire year? I guess it's possible, but could Andrade challenge the Just Cause 1 year no compete clause and win? Yes, I think he actually could. Is it worth the time and money and effort to go through legal proceedings for Andrade specifically? Well, maybe if Tony Khan's footing the bill, but...
And that's exactly what I was saying. I don't know if Andrade's going to want to pay that bill, bro, because there's no telling how long that will be drawn out. And once you try to go to war with WWE, they're only going to make it that much more difficult. Tony would have to come in and help Andrade with this if they decide to go to court. Because I don't know if Andrade got the bag to go up against WWE in this matter. Even though it is absolutely ridiculous to try to hold somebody hostage that no longer works for you because you got rid of them for a whole year, no matter what happened. That's excessive. That's really excessive, in my opinion.
Then I'd say yes, but once again, it took Brock Lesnar. I don't know if it took Brock Lesnar 8 months for the legal stuff to sort of settle out of court eventually, is what happened. Before he ended up getting back to the ring. But let's say it's 8 months. That's 8 months. And then you're being blocked for a year. That's a lot of, once again, time,
lawyer
money,
fees,
and resources being put into challenging a clause where you're only really gaining back a few months at the end of it. And in Andrade's case, it might not be worth it. We will see. But at this point, it seems we won't be seeing Andrade back in AEW, in an AEW ring or on television until at least 2026 at this moment. So,
damn. 2026. This is a very interesting story, because I feel like with the back and forth between talent going to WWE, talent going to AEW, switching back and forth, this is probably going to make a lot of people more hesitant. And hopefully, I hate Andrade had to be the one, but hopefully people start paying more attention to their clauses and their contracts that they're signing up for. Because if this ends up being something to where, I mean, if it starts preventing people from going to another company, and I mean, potentially it could stop them from going to WWE just because they don't want to have to deal with signing into, hey, if I get fired for just cause or something happens or this is not working out for me, I can get let go and you can hold me hostage for up to a year. That, to me, that is a very scary thing, because you really don't know how well you're going to succeed in WWE, because a lot of it is not up to you. The creative, like that's a thing. You got to hope that you get a good storyline. You got to hope that you can, because you can control the performing in the ring. You can control your, how well you do in, whether it's promos, whether it's your skill, whether it's your conditioning. You can control all of that. You can't really control creative unless they give you creative control, which I highly doubt they handing that out. But it really is playing the game also. I would imagine backstage politics has a lot to do with it as well. And if you get stuck in a contract to where you don't necessarily work out in WWE and they can hold you for up to a year, that's a scary situation to be in, man. I don't know, but y'all let me know. What do you feel about this? What speculations do you guys have about Andrade? And do y'all think that with this being public now about these clauses, do you think that's going to really shake the room for other superstars, preventing them from going to WWE or preventing them from ultimately wanting to leave WWE? Who knows, man? But let me know in the comment section. W video from, what's his name again? Just literally James Romero. I think that's how you say his name. Shout out to homeboy. I think this video is about a little bit over a week ago. So maybe I'll check into this more closely. I'll look for some other videos because this is very interesting. But appreciate y'all for watching, man. And until the next video, I will see y'all back in the ring. Peace.